the spirit who turned her tears to gold. In the village of Omuaka was alive with the sound of drums the day Nneka was born. The air smelled of roasted yam and palm oil, and women sang while men clapped and danced around the fire. She is a gift from the gods, people proclaimed, for her beauty shone even as a newborn, and her cry was as clear as a flute. Her mother, Ifunanya, held her close, whispering, "My little jewel, your name shall be Nneka, for truly, Mother is supreme. May your life be filled with light." For years, her childhood was bright. Nneka grew with laughter on her lips and kindness in her heart. She followed her mother everywhere, fetching water, grinding peppers, helping in the farm. Ifunanya often said, "Nneka, the world is heavy, but a soft heart carries it lightly. But joy is like morning dew, it dries too quickly." One rainy season, fever swept through the village. It came with shivers and burning heat, stealing lives silently. Nneka's mother was among those it killed. Nneka, only 8 years old, sat beside her mother's mat, holding her frail hand. Tears streamed down her face. "Mama, please don't leave me. Please." Ifunanya, weak and fading, forced a smile. She brushed a trembling hand over Nneka's cheek. "My jewel, don't forget. Sing when you are sad, and the gods will hear your voice." Those were her last words. When the wailing began, Nneka's world shattered. Her father, Okeke, tried his best to comfort her, but he too was broken. His grief was heavy, and loneliness pressed on him like an iron chain. After a year, he remarried, too soon for Nneka's healing heart. The new wife, Olama, entered their home with painted smiles, her daughter Uju clinging to her side. At first, Nneka tried to welcome them. She hoped for a mother's love again, or at least kindness. But Olama's eyes told another story. Whenever she looked at Nneka, her gaze was sharp, almost bitter. It was as if the girl's very presence was an insult to her. Years passed, Okeke began to fall ill, slowly, wasting sickness. Olama claimed it was the weather, or age, or evil eyes, but in truth, she cared little for him. She often left him unattended, while Nneka nursed him tirelessly, fetching herbs, washing his face, and whispering prayers. The next day Okeke said gently, "Olama, take care of Nneka as your own. I leave her in your hands." Olama smiled sweetly in front of him. "Of course, my husband. She is mine as much as yours." One rainy night, his voice broke in a weak whisper. "My daughter, never let your heart become bitter, no matter what the world does to you." By morning, he was gone. Nneka wept until her eyes bled. The only person who ever loved her truly was buried under red earth, and her stepmother's cruelty grew tenfold after that. But the moment Okeke was buried, Olama's voice turned cold. She pulled Nneka by the arm and hissed, "Listen well, girl. You are no daughter of mine. You are nothing but a servant in this house." Nneka's eyes widened. "But," Papa said. A sharp slap cut her words short. Uju giggled in the corner, clutching her mother's wrapper. "From today," Olama said, her voice low and full of venom, "you will cook, sweep, fetch water, and serve me and my daughter. If you disobey, you will taste the king." Tears filled Nneka's eyes, but she swallowed them. She remembered her mother's words, "Sing when you are sad." That night, called in the kitchen corner with hunger gnawing at her stomach, she sang softly. "The river knows my tears, the earth knows my pain, but the sky will one day send me peace." Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried through the cracks of the kitchen walls, into the night, and into the ears of the gods. The rooster crowed before dawn, but Nneka was already awake. Sleep had become a stranger. Her stepmother's voice often yanked her from dreams before the stars faded. That morning, Olama's sharp call cut through the air. Nneka, lazy girl, are you still sleeping? Come here this instant. Nneka scrambled from her mat in the kitchen, her small frame shivering in the cold harmattan breeze. She rushed out, her wrapper tied loosely around her shoulders. Yes, Mama, she said quietly. Don't call me Mama, Olama snapped, her eyes blazing. You are not my child. You will address me as Madame. Do you hear me? Nneka lowered her gaze. Yes, Madame. Good, Olama said with a smirk. Now, fetch firewood from the forest before the sun rises. If you delay, you will go hungry today. Uju, Olama's daughter, strolled into the yard just then. Her hair was freshly braided, and she stretched lazily. Mother, I am hungry. I want yam porridge for breakfast. Don't worry, my jewel, Olama cooed. Nneka will cook for you when she returns. She was born to serve. Uju's lips curled into a grin as her eyes flickered to Nneka. Hurry then, servant, before my stomach begins to growl. Nneka's heart sank, but she nodded silently and set off, a woven basket balanced on her head. The forest was still, save for the chirping of crickets. The air was heavy with the scent of damp leaves. Nneka's bare feet pressed into the earth as she bent to gather fallen branches. Each stick she picked seemed to weigh as much as her sorrow. Her stomach rumbled. She had not eaten since the night before. Her hands trembled as she stacked wood into the basket, whispering to herself the song her mother had taught her. The river knows my tears. The earth knows my pain. But the sky will one day send me peace. The words gave her a strange strength, like a hand steadying her back. When she returned home, Olama was waiting, arms crossed, face twisted. Why so long, you useless girl? Were you sleeping in the forest? No, madam, Nneka whispered. The wood was heavy. Before she could finish, a slap rang out, sending her sprawling to the ground. Do not give me excuses, Olama barked. Get up and start cooking before my daughter starves. Uju laughed, clapping her hands. Mother, look at her. She looks like a goat rolling in the dust. Hot tears pricked Nneka's eyes, but she swallowed them. She picked herself up, dust clinging to her wrapper, and dragged the firewood to the kitchen. She peeled yams until her fingers ached, stirred the pot until her arms throbbed, and served the steaming porridge to Olama and Uju. Not too much pepper, Uju said, wrinkling her nose after the first bite. But not bad, servant. Nneka sat in the corner of the kitchen, staring at the smoke rising from the fire. Her belly clenched with hunger, but none of the food was for her. All she had was the burnt crust scraped from the bottom of the pot. As she ate in silence, Olama's voice floated from the other room. She is too pretty for her own good, she was telling Uju. If not what the villagers will say, I would have sent her away long ago. But don't worry, my jewel. You will be the shining star. She will always live in your shadow. Uju giggled. Yes, mother. Let her carry the ashes, while I wear the beads. Nneka's heart broke at the words. She pressed her face into her knees, the smoky crust of yam untouched in her hands. But then she whispered, almost like a prayer. The sky will one day send me peace. And in the quiet of the night, her voice rose like smoke, carrying her sorrow to the heavens. The dry season sun blazed hot, burning the earth until it cracked like broken clay. Dust swirled in the air, clinging to every leaf and every face. The villagers walked slowly, seeking shade, but in Olama's compound there was no rest for Nneka. She had been pounding yams since dawn, her arms aching, her wrapper soaked with sweat. Her back bent like an old woman's, yet Olama still stood over her with a cane in hand. Faster, you lazy thing. Olama barked. Do you want to sleep inside the motor? Look at how slow you are. Even a snail would move quicker. Nneka's hands trembled, but she continued. She dared not speak, for each word out of her mouth could bring another stroke of the cane. At last, the yam was done, and she served it to Olama and Uju. She herself was given only the scraps again. As she sat in the corner, swallowing dry lumps of leftover food, Olama's eyes narrowed at her. She whispered something to Uju, and the girl's lips curved into a wicked smile. Uju, my jewel, Olama said aloud, the stream has been so far lately. And the pot we have is cracked. What shall we do? Uju giggled, glancing at Nneka. We can send our servant. She is strong enough to work until her legs break. Olama clapped her hands together in delight. Ah, that is a good idea. Nneka lifted her head slowly. Yes, madam, take this. Olama shoved a cracked clay pot into her hands. Its edges were chipped, and it rattled as if ready to fall apart. Go to the stream, Olama commanded. Bring water for the household. And listen carefully, do not return until the pot is full to the brim. Nneka's heart sank. She looked at the pot, then at the blazing sky. The stream was far, almost an hour's work, and filling this broken pot would be nearly impossible. But, madam, she whispered, her voice trembling, this pot is cracked. The water will. Silence, Olama roared, raising the cane. Do you dare argue with me? You will go. And if you come back without water, you will sleep outside with the goats tonight. Uju laughed cruelly, clapping her hands. Yes, go, servant. Maybe the river spirits will keep you company. Nneka's lips quivered, but she dared not refuse. She tied her feathered scarf over her head, lifted the pot onto her weary arms, and began the long walk to the stream. The path was dusty, lined with tall grasses that whispered in the wind. Birds called overhead, but their songs brought no joy to her heart. Her feet burned with each step, and her body ached. Still, she whispered her song, though her voice was hoarse. The river knows my tears, the earth knows my pain, but the sky will one day send me peace. The words carried her forward, though her legs trembled. When at last she reached the stream, she knelt by the water's edge. The current sparkled in the sun, cool and clear. She bent low, her face reflecting on the surface. Her reflection startled her, thin cheeks, tired eyes, hair tangled with sweat and dust. Yet beneath the weariness, her beauty still lingered, like a flower trying to bloom in dry soil. She sighed, dipping the pot carefully into the stream. Water seeped in, but almost immediately began dripping through the cracks. She tried again, tilting the pot, cupping her hands to patch the leaks. Tears welled in her eyes. Will I ever be free? She whispered. Must my life always be sorrow? A tear slipped down her cheek and fell into the water, rippling the surface. At that moment, a sound broke through the forest, the steady clop of hooves. Nneka's heart leaped. She turned quickly, clutching the cracked pot to her chest. From between the trees emerged a horse, tall and strong, its coat gleaming like polished bronze. Upon it rode a young man dressed in fine cloth, a bow slung across his back. His bearing was noble, but his eyes were kind. It was Prince Obina, son of the king, though Nneka did not know it yet. He slowed his horse, his gaze falling on the girl by the water. For a long moment, he did not speak. Her figure, bent in sorrow, her face shining with tears, it struck his heart like an arrow. Maiden, he said gently, his voice breaking the silence, why do you sit here with such sadness in your eyes? Nneka froze, her breath caught in her throat. She lowered her gaze, clutching the pot tighter, unsure if she should answer. The stream gurgled softly beside her, as though urging her to speak. Finally, in a trembling voice, she whispered, my stepmother sent me here, my lord. She gave me a broken pot and said I must not return until it is full. But it leaks, and I. Her voice cracked, and a tear slipped down her cheek. Prince Obina's chest tightened. He dismounted quickly, stepping closer. He saw the cracks in the pot, the calluses on her hands, the bruises hidden beneath her wrapper. And yet, she was radiant. Her sorrow only made her beauty deeper, like moonlight shining through clouds. You are not a servant, he said softly, his eyes fixed on hers. You are a jewel hidden in dust. Nneka looked up then, startled. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her with kindness. And in the depths of his eyes, she saw something she had never known before, hope. The forest was quiet except for the gentle murmur of the stream. A soft breeze stirred the tall grasses, carrying the scent of water and wildflowers. Nneka stood frozen, her cracked pot clutched against her chest, staring at the stranger who had appeared like a vision. Prince Obina looked at her with searching eyes. His voice, warm and calm, broke the silence. Tell me, maiden, he said softly, why would anyone send you with such a broken vessel? Do they not know it cannot hold water? Nneka lowered her eyes quickly, afraid to say too much. She had learned the hard way that speaking truth often brought punishment. Yet there was something in his tone, gentle, almost protective, that made her chest ache. My stepmother, she began hesitantly. Her voice wavered, then steadied. She gave me this pot and commanded that I must not return until it is filled. If I fell, she paused, swallowing hard. She will beat me, or worse. Her words trembled like leaves in the wind. Obina's hands clenched at his sides. What cruelty is this? He thought. What woman would do such a thing to a child? He stepped closer, his horse shifting behind him. The sunlight filtered through the trees, resting on Nneka's face. Her beauty was not in her tired features alone, it was in the quiet strength that clung to her like a second skin. What is your name? He asked gently. Nneka, she whispered. He smiled softly. Nneka, mother is supreme. A name of honor. But tell me, does your stepmother not know the treasure she has in you? A bitter laugh escaped her lips before she could stop it. To her, I am no treasure. I am dust beneath her feet. Her daughter, Uju, is the jewel she polishes for the world to see. I am hidden away like shame. Obina's heart stirred with anger. He knelt by the stream and dipped his hand into the water, letting it run between his fingers. Then he looked up at her. Listen to me, Nneka, he said firmly. You are not dust. You are not shame. You are a light hidden under a basket, waiting for the day it will shine. Her eyes widened, filling with tears. No one had ever spoken such words to her, not since her mother's passing. Why do you speak so kindly to me? She whispered, her voice breaking. He rose, brushing the dust from his knees. His gaze did not waver. Because I see you. Not the rags you wear, not the cracked pot in your hands, not the sorrow in your eyes. I see the woman the gods created you to be. And I cannot turn away. Nneka's tears slipped freely now, dropping into the stream. She turned quickly, ashamed. But Obina reached out, gently lifting the pot from her arms. Let me help you, he said. He dipped the pot into the stream, balancing it carefully so that less water spilled through the cracks. He lifted it with ease, his strong arm steady, and placed it on her head. His hands lingered for a moment, steadying the weight, and in that brief touch, something unspoken passed between them, something neither fully understood yet. Nneka's heart raced. She had never been touched with such care before. Thank you, she stammered, lowering her gaze. Obina studied her for a moment, then smiled friendly. One day, Nneka, you will no longer carry broken pots for others. One day, you will be carried like a crown. She stared at him, her lips parted. The words struck her deeply, filling her with both wonder and fear. I, I must go, she whispered quickly. If I stay too long, my stepmother will punish me. Obina's chest tightened. He wanted to stop her, to keep her safe, to take her away from whatever cruelty awaited her. But he also knew that trust could not be forced, it had to grow. Go then, he said softly. But remember what I have told you. You are not dust. You are not shame. Nneka nodded slowly, then turned and began the long walk back, the cracked pot balanced on her head. Her steps were lighter, though her load was heavy. Behind her, Obina watched until she disappeared into the forest paths. As he mounted his horse again, he whispered to himself, I will find you, Nneka. I will not let sorrow hide you forever. And as the stream flowed on, it carried not only her tears, but also the beginning of a love story the village would one day never forget. The palace of Umuaka stood tall and proud, its walls painted with clay the color of the rising sun. Servants moved about busily, carrying calabashes of palm wine and baskets of kola nuts. The sound of drums echoed faintly in the courtyard as maidens practiced dances for the coming festival. But Prince Obina heard none of it. He sat in his chambers, staring out the window toward the forest beyond the village. His attendants whispered among themselves. The prince had returned from hunting with no game, only a distant look in his eyes and silence on his lips. Obina's mind was still at the stream, replaying every detail of the maiden he had met. Her name, Nneka, was etched into his heart. Her voice, trembling but sweet, haunted his ears like a song he could not forget. The sight of her tears stirred something deeper than pity. It was as though the gods themselves had tied his soul to hers. He rose suddenly, startling his attendant, Chima. My prince, Chima asked cautiously. I must find her again, Obina said, pacing. The maiden at the stream. There was sorrow in her eyes, but also strength, light. She is not like the others. Chima frowned, uncertain. But, my prince, there are many maidens at the stream. How will you know which one she is? Obina smiled faintly. I will know. Her heart speaks louder than any drum. Meanwhile, in Olama's compound, Nneka's brief moment of hope had already been trampled underfoot. The cracked pot had leaked badly on the way home, leaving only half its water when she reached the yard. Olama was waiting, her cane in hand. What is this? She screamed, pointing at the pot. Do you call this fool? You dare defy me? No, madam, Nneka pleaded, dropping to her knees. The pot, a heavy lash of the cane silenced her words. Pain sailed across her back, and she cried out. Uju, standing nearby, laughed cruelly. Mother, beat her more. Maybe she will learn to obey. Yes, my jewel, Olama hissed, striking again. This girl thinks she is better than you. Always walking with her head high, as though she is a princess. I will humble her, Nneka called into herself, biting her lip to keep from screaming. Her tears soaked the dust beneath her, but still she whispered in her heart. The river knows my tears. The earth knows my pain. But the sky will one day send me peace. That night, After the lashes had stopped and Olama had gone to bed, Nneka sat by the dying fire in the kitchen, her body aching. She touched her bruised skin and winced, but her heart clung to the memory of the stranger at the stream. His words echoed in her mind. You are not dust. You are not shame. For the first time in years, she allowed herself a faint smile. Could it be true? Could someone see her as more than a servant? But then fear crept in. What if my stepmother finds out he spoke to me? What if he never comes again? She shook her head and drew her knees to her chest. All she could do was hold onto the tiny ember of hope he had lit within her heart. Back in the palace, Obina's father, the king, sat with his council. The time has come, the king declared. My son must choose a bride. At the festival of maidens, every young woman in the kingdom will be presented. The gods will guide his heart. The courtiers clapped and praised the decision. Word spread quickly, reaching every compound, including Olama's. Olama's eyes gleamed as she heard the news. She turned to her daughter with excitement. Do you hear that, my jewel? She said, gripping Uju's hands. The prince will choose a bride. And who else is worthy if not you? Uju giggled, preening like a peacock. Yes, mother. I will be queen. I will wear coral beads and sit beside the prince. Indeed, Olama cried. We must prepare. Your hair will be oiled, your skin rubbed with palm butter. And as for that wretched girl, she shot a venomous glance at the kitchen where Nneka was bent over the fire. She will never set foot in the palace. She is a curse, and I will make sure she stays hidden like the rat she is. Nneka kept her head down, stirring the pot. But inside her chest, her heart beat faster. She remembered Obina's eyes, his words at the stream. Could it be? She thought. Is he truly the prince? And though she dared not hope too much, the hidden flame in her heart glowed brighter, refusing to die. The village of Omuaka stirred with excitement. For days, word had spread like wildfire. The festival of maidens was near. Drummers rehearsed under the Iroko tree, their rhythms echoing through the hills. Mothers polished their daughters with shea butter, braided their hair into shining crowns, and adorned them with beads of red and gold. Every maiden dreamed of being chosen by the prince. In Olama's compound, the excitement was feverish. Hold still, my jewel, Olama first, rubbing Uju's skin with palm oil until it gleamed. The prince will see your beauty before any other. You must smile like the moon and walk like the gazelle. Uju giggled, admiring herself in the polished bronze mirror. Mother, I am already more beautiful than all the maidens. The prince cannot resist me. Yes, Olama agreed, her eyes glinting. But we must make sure no shadow falls on your shine. That wretched girl must remain hidden. Her gaze snapped toward the kitchen, where Nneka was pounding yam, sweat running down her brow. Girl, Olama barked. Nneka paused, her tired hands tightening around the pestle. Yes, madam. Today is the festival, Olama said coldly. You will not step outside this compound. Do you hear me? While my daughter goes to the palace, you will remain here like the servant you are. If I return and find that you disobeyed, I will skin you alive. Nneka bowed her head quickly. Yes, madam. Uju smirked as she twirled in her beaded wrapper. Stay here and watch the goats, servant. A palace is no place for ash girls like you. The both laughed as they left, their voices trailing like thorns in Nneka's heart. When the compound finally fell silent, Nneka sat on the ground, her pistol slipping from her tired hands. The ache in her chest was worse than hunger. She pressed her face into her palms and sobbed silently. Why, Mama? Why did you leave me to suffer so? Why do the gods let me live like this, only to watch others shine? Her tears fell into the dust, forming little dark circles. As the wind rustled through the compound, a shadow moved near the old odala tree at the corner. Nneka lifted her head, startled. There stood a woman she had never seen before, tall, cloaked in a wrapper that shimmered faintly, her eyes glowing like river water in moonlight. Nneka scrambled to her feet. Who are you? The woman's voice was soft yet commanding, like water flowing over stones. Do not fear, child. I am Mama Ankata, the spirit of the stream where you cried your tears. Nneka's lips parted, her breath caught in her throat. The stream, the woman nodded. Yes, your sorrow has reached the heavens. I have seen your pain, your bruises, your broken pots. But child, the time of suffering is ending. Today, destiny calls you. Nneka shook her head quickly, fear and disbelief clouding her eyes. No, it cannot be. My stepmother has locked me here. The prince, he will never see me. The woman smiled, a mysterious, knowing smile. She reached into her calabash and drew out a small clay pot, whole and perfect. Its surface gleamed with strange light. Take this, Nneka. It is the pot of truth. Carry it to the festival. It will not break, it will not spill. And it will carry your destiny with it. Nneka's trembling hands reached out to touch the pot. Warmth spread through her palms, and suddenly her rags shimmered and transformed into a simple but radiant wrapper, white as river foam, with tiny beads glowing like stars. Her eyes widened in awe. How? How is this possible? Do not ask questions, Mama Ankata said gently. Go now. Work with courage. The gods have prepared your path. Nneka hesitated, fear battling with hope. Then, clutching the shining pot, she stepped out of the compound, her heart pounding like a drum. At the palace, the courtyard overflowed with maidens dressed in their finest wrappers. Their mothers pushed them forward, urging them to smile, to stand tall, to be chosen. Drums beat, dancers moved, and the air was filled with the scent of roasted yam and palm wine. Prince Obina stood beside his father, his eyes scanning the crowd. Uju pushed her way to the front, swaying her hips, her beaded waist jingling. She flashed the prince a smile, tilting her head. But Obina barely glanced at her. His heart searched for one face, one voice, one presence. And then, like dawn breaking, he saw her. Through the crowd, Nneka worked, carrying the pot of truth on her head. Her steps were graceful, her eyes lowered, but the glow around her was unmistakable. Obina's heart leaped. It is her, the maiden of the stream. The world seemed to fall silent as she approached. The other maidens whispered in envy, their eyes darting to her glowing wrapper. Uju's jaw dropped, her smile fading into anger. Obina stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Nneka. You, he breathed, wonder in his voice. You came. Nneka's lips trembled, but she nodded faintly. Yes, my prince, and at that moment, the flame that had been hidden in both their hearts burst into light. The courtyard of the palace was alive with color, song, and laughter. Maidens swayed to the beat of the drums, their beats clinking softly as they moved. The king's throne gleamed under the sun, surrounded by chiefs and elders. All eyes were fixed on Prince Obina, waiting to see which maiden would capture his heart. Uju pushed her way to the front, her smile wide and confident. She tossed her braided hair over her shoulder, raising her chin high. Her mother, Olama, hovered at the edge of the crowd, her eyes glistening with ambition. Remember, my jewel, she whispered earlier, the prince is yours. Do not let any other girl outshine you. But the moment Nneka entered the courtyard, all whispers died down. Her simple white wrapper shimmered faintly, as though touched by moonlight. Her glowing pot rested on her head, steady and whole. She moved with quiet grace, her eyes lowered in humility, yet every step seemed to draw light toward her. The crowd murmured, "Who is she? Where did she come from? She walks like a spirit." Uju's smile faltered, her heart clenching with sudden fear. Prince Obina stepped forward, his gaze locked on Nneka. His voice, strong and steady, cut through the air. "Father, elders, and people of Umuaka," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "Among all the maidens gathered today, my heart has chosen." Gasps rose from the crowd. Mothers clutched their daughters' arms, whispering eagerly. Uju straightened, flashing her brightest smile. She was ready to step forward, convinced the prince was speaking of her. But Obina's next words shattered her world. He walked directly to Nneka, his hand extended. "It is she, the maiden of the stream." The courtyard erupted in shock. "What? Who is she? She is not even dressed in riches." Olama's face twisted in disbelief. "No, no, this cannot be," she hissed. Uju's eyes widened in horror. "Mother, he cannot mean her." Obina reached Nneka and gently took the pot from her head, setting it aside. His hand lingered as he looked into her trembling eyes. "Nneka," he said softly but clearly enough for all to hear, "from the moment I saw you, I knew. Your beauty is not only in your face, but in your spirit. Your heart shines brighter than coral beads, brighter than silk. And it is you I wish to walk beside me." The crowd gasped again, then broke into murmurs of awe and envy. Nneka's lips parted, her voice trembling. My prince, I am not worthy." Obina silenced her with a gentle shake of his head. "You are more worthy than any. You are the one." The king, watching carefully, stroked his beard. At first, surprise flickered across his face. But as he looked at Nneka, the glow around her, the humility in her stance, and the quiet strength in her eyes, he nodded slowly. "The gods guide the heart of a prince," the king said firmly. "If she is his choice, then we must honor it." The crowd clapped and cheered, though some maidens turned away in jealousy. But Olama could no longer contain herself. She pushed forward, dragging Uju with her. Her voice rang out like a viper's hiss. "No, this is witchcraft. How dare you choose this worthless girl? She is nothing but a servant in my household. A cursed child. My daughter, Uju, is the jewel fit for a prince, not this ash girl." The crowd gasped. All eyes turned toward Olama. Obina's jaw tightened. He held Nneka's hand protectively. "A servant? Then it is shame on you, woman, for treating a jewel like dust. You call her cursed, yet I see no cause, only light. Perhaps the gods blinded you to her worth." Olama's face burned with rage, her hands trembling. She turned desperately to the king. "Your Highness, do not let your son be deceived. This girl is unworthy. She is the daughter of my husband's late wife, a burden I have carried out of pity." The king's eyes narrowed. "Is that so? And yet, it is she who carries herself with grace, not the daughter you boast of. Beware, woman, for arrogance blinds the eye." The chiefs murmured in agreement. Nneka, overwhelmed, knelt before the king. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Great king, I am nothing. I do not seek a crown. I only wish for peace." But Obina bent and lifted her gently to her feet. "No, Nneka. You are not nothing. You are everything I have sought. And with you, I will have peace." The crowd erupted into cheers this time, louder, stronger. Olama stood frozen, her face twisted in fury, her plans crumbling to dust. Uju wept beside her, stamping her feet in frustration. But the gods had spoken, and the princess' choice had been made. The palace drums still echoed in the hearts of the people long after the festival. Villagers sang of the princess' choice, their voices rising with excitement. The maiden of the stream, the maiden of light, they chanted as they walked the dusty roads. The gods have favored her, but in Olama's compound, the atmosphere was thick with rage. Uju sat in the corner, her face streaked with tears, her hair disheveled from pulling it in anger. Mother, how could this happen? How could he choose her, that rat, over me? Olama paced the yard like a lioness robbed of her prey. Her eyes were sharp, her lips trembling with venom. Calm yourself, my jewel, she hissed, though her voice shook with fury. This is not the end. That girl will never sit on the throne. Not while I still breathe. Uju sniffled, looking up at her mother with desperate eyes. But the whole village cheers for her now. What can we do? The prince has spoken, the king has agreed. She is to be his bride. Olama stopped pacing, her eyes narrowing. Then we must act quickly, before the marriage rites are sealed. If the gods have lifted her up, then I will cast her down with my own hands. Her words slithered into the air like poison. That night, Olama slipped out of the compound, her wrapper pulled tight around her shoulders. The moon was high, casting pale light over the forest. She carried a calabash filled with palm oil, kola nuts, and a black hen. Her footsteps were silent as she made her way toward the grove where the old shrine stood. The shrine of Eke, the python spirit, was a place most feared. The villagers avoided it, whispering of curses and shadows that lingered there. But Olama's heart was hardened. She knelt before the carved wooden idol, her voice a low hiss. Great Eke, spirit of the deep, she murmured. I call upon you. I bring sacrifice. Take this hen, take this offering, and hear my plea. She raised the hen and slit its throat swiftly, letting the blood drip onto the earth. Destroy her, Olama whispered fiercely. Destroy Nneka, that cursed child who dares rise above my daughter. Let sickness take her, or misfortune strike her, or the earth swallow her whole. I will not rest until she is gone. The wind rustled suddenly, though no leaves moved. A faint hiss echoed through the grove. Olama shivered, but her eyes gleamed. She took it as a sign. It is done, she said, wiping her hands. Her end begins. Back at the palace, Nneka lay on a soft mat for the first time in her life. The maidens of the palace had bathed her, combed her hair, and dressed her in fresh clothes. Yet she could not sleep. Her heart was heavy with fear. She thought of Olama's face at the festival, twisted with hatred. She thought of Uju's tears and the laughter of the crowd. What if they tried to harm me? She whispered to herself. Just then, a breeze drifted through the window, carrying a faint scent of river water. Nneka sat up, her eyes wide. In the corner of the room, the figure of Mama Ankata appeared, shimmering softly. Child, the spirit said gently, fear not. The wicked may plot, but their snares will not hold you. You are under the protection of the river and the sky. Nneka's eyes filled with tears. But why me? Why does the prince see me? Why do the gods care for me? Mama Ankata smiled. Because, Nneka, you have endured the fire and remained pure. You carried broken pots, yet your spirit was never broken. The gods honor such a heart. Hold fast. The darkness will rise against you, but the light will not abandon you. With that, the spirit faded like mist, leaving behind a peace that wrapped around Nneka like a blanket. She lay back down, whispering the song her mother had once taught her. The river knows my tears. The earth knows my pain, but the sky will one day send me peace. And though Olama plotted in the shadows, Nneka finally drifted into sleep, guarded by forces greater than malice. The days after the festival were filled with celebration in Umuaka. Villagers crowded the palace gates to catch glimpses of Nneka, the maiden who had captured the prince's heart. Songs were composed in her honor, and children followed her whenever she appeared, chanting, "The river maiden, the prince's bride." But joy in the palace meant rage in Olama's heart. Each cheer for Nneka was like a thorn piercing her flesh. Each song was a fire burning her pride. One night, she called Uju into the hut, shutting the door behind them. A small oil lamp flickered, casting shadows on the mud walls. "My jewel," Olama whispered, her eyes sharp as a knife. "If we sit and do nothing, soon that rat will become queen. And when she sits on the throne, do you think she will forgive us? No. She will remember every lash, every insult, every hunger. She will crush us under her feet." Uju trembled. "Then what shall we do, mother?" Olama leaned close, her voice dropping lower. "We must strike before she wears the coral crown. Tomorrow, I will invite her back to the stream. We will tell her the prince sent for her. And there, the river will claim her." Uju's eyes widened. "The river? You mean, drown her?" Olama's lips curled into a cold smile. "Yes, nobody, no proof. The villagers will believe the gods changed their mind. And then, my jewel, you will still have your chance." The next morning, Olama wrapped herself in false sweetness. She walked to the palace, carrying a basket of fresh granuts as if she came in peace. Nneka was seated in the courtyard, weaving a mat, her face calm but thoughtful. When she saw Olama, her body tensed. "Madam," she said cautiously, bowing slightly. Olama put on a sad smile. "Ah, my daughter, do not call me madam. Call me mama, as you used to. I came to beg for forgiveness. The whole village praises you now. Who am I to fight the will of the gods?" Nneka blinked, startled by the words. Could this be true? Her stepmother, humbling herself. Olama set the basket before her. "Here, I brought you granuts. Eat, and let us start anew. After all, are we not family?" The palace maidens murmured in surprise. Nneka, ever gentle of heart, felt her resolve soften. "Thank you, madam," she caught herself. "I mean, mama." Olama's smile widened. "Good child. And since we are reconciled, come with me to the stream. Let us fetch water together, as mother and daughter. Let the village see we are one family again." Nneka hesitated, her fingers brushing the mat. Something in her spirit stirred uneasily, but the memory of her mother's teachings rang in her heart. Forgive, even when wronged. She rose slowly. "Very well. I will go." The path to the stream was quiet, the trees heavy with morning mist. Birds sang faintly in the distance. Olama walked ahead, her steps brisk, her eyes darting like a predator waiting to strike. When they reached the bank, the water glittered in the sunlight. Olama set her calabash down and turned to Nneka with a false smile. "Come closer, child. Fill your pot here where the water is deep and clear." Nneka knelt at the edge, dipping her pot. The current was strong, tugging at the clay vessel. And then, suddenly, Olama's hands shoved her head from behind. Nneka screamed as she fell forward, the cold water swallowing her whole. "Stay there," Olama spat, her face twisted with hatred. "Let the river take you, cause of my life. You will never rise above my daughter." Nneka's arms flowed, her cries muffled as the water pulled her under. The current spun her, dragging her toward the deep. Panic clutched her chest. "Help me, mama. Help me." she thought desperately. But as the water closed over her head, a strange calm fell. Through the swirling current, she saw a faint light glowing beneath the surface. And from the depths, a voice she recognized whispered, "Fear not, child. The river knows your tears." Back on the bank, Olama brushed her hands together, her chest heaving. She picked up her calabash, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "It is done," she muttered. "Now the prince will forget her. And my jewel will rise." She turned to leave, not knowing that the river itself was rising to protect the daughter it had claimed as its own. The river's current dragged Nneka downward, swirling around her like a furious serpent. Her chest burned, her arms thrashed, but the weight of water pressed harder and harder. Her cries dissolved into silence as bubbles rose from her lips. Just when her strength was almost gone, a glow bloomed beneath her, a soft, silvery light that grew brighter until it wrapped her in warmth. From the light emerged Mama Ankata, the spirit of the stream, her eyes glistening like stars reflected on water. She stretched out her hand. "Child," she said gently, "do not fear. What was meant for your end shall become your beginning." Nneka, choking back tears, reached for her. "Mama Ankata, my stepmother," she pushed me. "Hush," the spirit soothed. "The wicked always dig their own graves. What matters is you. The river has chosen you, and the sky has blessed you. You shall not drown. You shall rise." The light wrapped tighter around Nneka, and suddenly her tattered wrapper dissolved, replaced by a radiant garment woven from threads of water and moonlight. Her skin shone like morning dew, her hair flowed like a dark river, and tiny pearls clung to her as though the stream itself had adorned her. She gasped, looking down at herself. "What is happening to me?" "You are being restored," Mama Ankata whispered. "The river gives what was denied you: dignity, beauty, and strength. The princess' choice was not chance. It was destiny. And destiny cannot be drowned." Nneka's tears mingled with the water, but this time they were tears of awe. "But how shall I return? How shall I face the world after this?" The spirit touched her forehead gently. "When you rise, the river will carry you to the palace. The truth shall be revealed, and no lie can bury it. Go, my daughter. Rise." With a wave of her hand, the current released Nneka, lifting her toward the surface. Meanwhile, Olama strolled back to her compound, her calabash balanced on her head. Uju rushed to meet her, eyes wide with anxious hope. "Mother, did you do it?" Olama smirked darkly. "Yes, the river has swallowed her. By now, she is gone." Uju clasped her hands together, relief flooding her face. "So the prince will forget her, and he will look at me again." "Yes, my jewel," Olama said, hugging her daughter. "Now we must prepare. Tomorrow, we go to the palace. We will say Nneka fled. And then the prince will have no choice but to look upon you." But as she spoke, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, though the sky was clear. Neither of them noticed. At the palace, Obina paced restlessly in the courtyard. His heart had been uneasy all day, a weight pressing on his chest. "Why do I feel this way?" he muttered. "Something has happened." Suddenly, the palace guards shouted from the gates. "Make way! Something comes from the river." The villagers gathered quickly, curiosity pulling them forward. And then they saw her. Nneka emerged from the river path, her steps slow but steady. Her glowing garment shimmered in the sunlight, her hair gleamed, and her eyes carried a depth that made even the elders bow their heads. The people gasped. "It is her, the river maiden. The gods have touched her." Obina froze, his heart leaping. Then, without hesitation, he rushed forward. "Nneka," he cried, falling to his knees before her. The gods have returned you to me. Nneka's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him. My prince, I thought I was lost. But the river saved me. He rose and held her hands tightly, his voice trembling. Never again. Never again will anyone take you from me. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising to the heavens. And from the shadows of the crowd, Olama watched, her face pale as ashes. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. For in that moment, she knew her trap had failed. The girl she tried to drown had returned not broken, but crowned in glory. The palace courtyard overflowed with people. Word had spread like wildfire. Nneka, the river maiden, had returned. Villagers pushed to the gates, eager to see her glowing presence with their own eyes. The king himself sat upon the carved stool of judgment, his coral beads shining against his chest. His face was stern but curious as he studied Nneka, who stood beside Prince Obinna, radiant as the morning sun. Daughter, the king said, his deep voice echoing, the people say the river has touched you. Tell us what happened, for your story belongs to us all. A hush fell. Nneka's eyes filled with quiet strength as she stepped forward. She bowed slightly before the king, then lifted her head. My king, my elders, she began, her voice trembling yet firm. I was sent to the stream by my stepmother. She told me she wished to reconcile with me, that we might fetch water together as one family. But when I knelt at the water's edge, she pushed me into the deep. Her hands were the hands of betrayal. A cry of shock rippled through the crowd. Obina's fists clenched. I knew it, Nneka continued, her voice breaking with emotion. I struggled as the water dragged me under. I thought my life had ended. But the river spirits, who had always held my cries in secret, lifted me up and clothed me in their mercy. They returned me, not broken, but renewed. And here I stand, not by my strength, but by their grace. Gasps, murmurs, and exclamations of wonder rose from the villagers. Many wiped their eyes, moved by her suffering and survival. The king raised his hand for silence. Olama, he thundered. Come forward at once. From the crowd, Olama stumbled into the open, Ojo at her side. Their faces were pale, their knees weak. My king, Olama stammered, bowing low. Do not listen to her lies. She fabricates stories to tarnish me. Silence. The king's voice cracked like lightning. The river does not lie. This maiden stands here by the will of the gods. Would they have saved her if she were false? The crowd roared in agreement. No, no. The gods do not save liars. Prince Obinna stepped forward, his eyes blazing. Speak the truth, Olama. Did you, or did you not, push her into the stream? Olama's lips trembled. She looked around, hoping for mercy, but all she saw were accusing eyes. Her voice cracked. I only wanted to protect my daughter's future. That girl, she has stolen everything. She was supposed to serve us, not rise above us. A collective gasp rose from the people. Uju buried her face in her hands, sobbing. The king stood, his face thunderous. You wicked woman. You sought to destroy the innocent, but instead you have destroyed your own name. From this day, you are stripped of honor. You shall leave this village, never to return. Olama fell to her knees, wailing. Mercy, my king. Mercy. But the villagers shouted back, their voices fierce. Let her go. She must pay for her cruelty. Justice. The king raised his hand once more. Let the gods be the final judge. Guards, take her away. Two palace guards seized Olama, dragging her from the courtyard as she screamed and thrashed. Uju followed, weeping bitterly, her world shattered. As they disappeared through the gates, the king turned to Nneka. His face softened, and his voice grew gentle. Child, though you have suffered, the gods have chosen you for greatness. Today, the truth has set you free. And soon, you shall sit upon the throne as the bride of my son. The crowd erupted in joyous cheers. Drums beat, flutes sang, and voices rose in unison. Blessed is the river maiden. Blessed is she who endures. Obina took Nneka's hand in his eyes shining with tears. From this day forward, nothing will part us again. You are my heart, my destiny, my queen. And for the first time, Nneka smiled fully, her face radiant with peace. The dawn of a new day broke over Umuaka. The golden sun rose slowly, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold. Drums echoed from the palace square, steady and proud, calling every villager to gather. It was a day unlike any other, a day of coronation. The courtyard bustled with color. Women wore wrappers of bright indigo and crimson, their necks heavy with coral beads. Men beat drums and blew ivory horns. Children danced barefoot in the dust, their laughter rising with the morning air. In the heart of the square stood the great stool of the kingdom, carved from sacred Iroko wood. Before it, Prince Obina waited, dressed in regal attire, his chest bare but for the lion skin sash, coral beads around his neck, and a crown of gold resting lightly on his head. His eyes, however, were fixed not on the crowd but on the palace doors, waiting. Then, the doors opened. Nneka emerged, and the crowd gasped in awe. She wore a wrapper woven of the finest silk, the colors of river blue and sun gold flowing with every step. Around her waist shone a beaded girdle, and her hair was adorned with white cowries that shimmered like drops of water. She walked with grace, yet her eyes carried the humility of one who had endured hardship. The crowd erupted. River Maiden, Queen of the land, she is blessed. She is chosen. The king stood and raised his staff. Today, the gods seal their will. The girl once despised has become the jewel of the kingdom. The one rejected has become the cornerstone. Let all see that the river's hand is mightier than man's wickedness. He gestured to Nneka, who knelt before him. A palace priestess stepped forward, carrying a bowl of river water. She dipped her fingers and anointed Nneka's forehead. With the purity of the river, she intoned, "May your reign be full of wisdom." The king lifted the crown of woven gold and coral. He placed it gently upon Nneka's head. "Arise, Nneka," he proclaimed. "Arise, Queen of Umuaka." The crowd roared so loudly the earth seemed to shake. Drums thundered, flutes shrieked with joy, and the people broke into dance. Prince Obina took Nneka's hand and drew her to his side. His voice trembled with emotion as he whispered, "You are no longer the girl of ashes and tears. You are the light of this land, my heart, my queen." Nneka's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. She looked up at the sky and whispered softly, "Mama, do you see me now? The gods have turned my mourning into dancing." The celebration lasted till nightfall. Fires blazed, dancers stamped their feet in rhythm, and the voices of the people sang one truth. The maiden once sent to the stream had returned as a queen. And so Nneka's story, born of sorrow and cruelty, blossomed into triumph. She had endured hunger, humiliation, and betrayal, but the river had remembered her tears, and the sky had answered with peace. From that day, her name was sung not in whispers of pity but in songs of praise, a living reminder that destiny cannot be drowned. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about this story on the comment section with me. Give this story a thumbs up and share this story to your loved ones. Please subscribe to this channel for more stories. See you on my next story.